Welcome to another broadcast of The Soul of the Everyman on the ArtistFirst Radio Network. All past shows are in podcast form. You can find them at ArtistFirst.com. Send your questions and comments to DJ at ArtistFirst.com. And here they are, your hosts, Michael and Margaret Lyons.
And thank you very much, Z-Man. And I am Michael Lyons.
And I'm Margaret.
And she's Margaret. And we almost didn't make it, but here we are.
I made it.
We're fighting the dishonorable computer gremlins.
Mm-hmm.
And tonight's topic is about honorable computer gremlins, or just about honor. And it's interesting because you came up with this topic sort of out of the blue, and I think we had to dig a little bit just to kind of think about what we meant by it, because the idea of honor it's gotten kind of tied up in a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it always has been. I mean, there's a certain sort of conflation of honor with duty. There's a certain sort of conflation, maybe correctly so, of honor with sort of doing the right thing, of kind of being selfless, which may be one of the better descriptions of honor. And but we kind of dug down because there's a lot of things. People think about honor and they think about a lot of different things, and it's also kind of come into the language as honorifics. Something which is sort of like a presentation that you get, an award that you get. But at the best kind of, as we dug down, the best thing that we ran into was an interesting quote, which kind of sums it up. And if you're prepared, you can read it. 'Cause she's so much better at reading the quotes than I am, because I just screw them up. So if you're prepared, if not, I can just keep on vamping.
Okay. 1 second. You mean the Coolidge quote?
Yes, it's by our friend Silent Cal, or whatever his name was.
All right. He said, "No person was ever honored for what he received. Honor has been the reward for what he gave."
Yeah, and of course it's he or she, because person is all of us. But honor that's very close to the nub of honor. And I think, and that's where we kind of said, well, this is where the discussion should go, because I think in today's society, or maybe in many societies, honor has turned into something which is sort of assumed that you have when you're given a lot of things.
Well, let's put a foundation down of what honor is defined as, and then we can go on from there.
Sounds honorable to me.
Okay, so the Wikipedia definition of honor,
which is horror,
is honor is the idea of a bond between an individual and a society as a quality of a person that is both of social teaching and of personal ethos. It manifests itself as a code of conduct and has various elements such as valor, chivalry, honesty, and compassion.
And that word salad from Wikipedia does kind of bring all those types of different concepts together. But the important bit there, I think, I'll just say, is that honor is external to the person in one regard, because you aren't born with honor.
Right.
You have to earn it, and then you kind of become imbued with honor, and it becomes sort of a, at least in the sense that the Wikipedia is saying, it becomes something which is recognized throughout your culture or your society, so that, as an example, when you see somebody who has served their country in whatever capacity, maybe in these days as a healthcare worker, and you accord them a certain amount of honor, and it's because of of whether they did anything for you personally, and they may have done nothing for you personally. In fact, it's usually when you're kind of expressing your honor, your sense of honor to somebody, it's usually that they haven't done anything for you personally, but that you recognize the fact that they have done something which was very right and not in any way for necessarily personal gain. People who are, let's say, healthcare workers are in the business because they really want to do it. Because first of all, dealing with people who are sick and they're full of all these nasty fluids and they smell bad is something you gotta want to do before doing it, because otherwise, who would? But so it's their calling, but yet
and they fulfill it.
And they fulfill it. But in the execution of their duties, we as a society recognize that they're going above and beyond, that there really isn't anything that could properly remunerate them for the amount of time of their own personal lives that they spend in the service of others. And healthcare workers are just one example. There are many, many, many examples.
And honor is something that we understand that we can strive for. In other words, this is something that we can earn, which is very different from, when you think of things that you earn, and people earn a living, earn a wage. But that's very different from understanding what honor is.
I would say, though, that there's one thing significant about that, is that people who strive for honor are not the most honorable. Because, in essence, what I'm saying is that people who do these things, listen, what I mean is when somebody does something selflessly, they acquire the honor not because they wanted to be honored. So that's what I mean by striving for honor. Like I'm doing this, so I'm doing something really, really honorable, and then everyone will think I'm a hero. And most heroes or most honorables come into it and they say, if you say, what a wonderful, you're so incredible person, you're such an honorable person, they always say, well, anyone would have done it. It's not about me. They're never striving, or they're never doing it for the honor of it. They're doing it because it's the right thing to do. It's fulfillment of their calling, and the honor they get from it is not the goal. The goal was always to serve, and the honor is something that we can't pay. Nothing you could give these people, any of us could give that person, would in any way properly be worth the time they put into it. And that wasn't what it was about. It's that we accord them honor above and beyond anything else that we could possibly give them because of the act. Not because they were striving for it, but because they did it, if you know what I mean.
No.
Well, no. Well, because what you said was you can do things that will earn you honor, but that's not why you do them. And striving is why you do them. That's all I'm trying to say.
What I'm saying is, it's understanding the depth of honor. There are various ways that people have subdivided levels of honor, okay? And that's where the striving part had come in, where people are setting goals, all right? But when you get to a true expression of a human being, that heartfelt compassion being expressed and given, that is what you're defining as an honorable act, then. Is that what I'm understanding?
No. Yes, it is certainly an honorable act, but maybe what you just said is exactly where you're going to, if we divide the world into people who are doing something without any thought of what the consequences would be, as far as their personal, as far as what they are personally, their personal regard that's given to them. Okay, they're doing it because it's the right thing to do, and whether anybody ever even finds out about it is immaterial to them. Okay, this is the highest form. You accord these people the highest form of honor. If you're doing good things and good works and fulfilling your duty, it's also honorable because you're kind of sacrificing your volition in service to something greater. And we accord people honor. So let's say for people who serve in the military, they're doing their duty. Sometimes they go above and beyond and they get even greater honor. But just in service that isn't to your own self, it's for others, that's honorable. But I think there's the highest form of honor is one that's something that's done without even it's well beyond fulfillment of duty. It's well beyond just service. It's even higher than that. That's what I'm trying to say. There's as you said, levels of honor.
Okay, but that's my point. You want a definition. Where do you want to start? So you wanted to start up high.
No, I think we can go anywhere. The idea here was though that as we started with the quote with Silent Cal's quote there, it is all about what you give, and to the degree that you give, that at least potentially brings you honor. The converse is true too. You know, in the sense that to the degree that you're faithless, or that you're you say you'll fulfill a duty and then you do not fulfill that duty because you in essence break trust, you're dishonored. And you could also look at the other side of Coolidge's quote, which is that it's not what you're given which brings you honor. You know, it's not you can't. In essence, Margaret, he's really saying you can't give someone honors. That doesn't make them honorable. No matter how much you give them, does not make them honorable. It's what they give which makes them honorable.
Right. But my point being, you have to delineate between those two. You can't just throw it out there because it's been so mixed up in its interpretation, especially when it comes to what cultural eyes looking at honor. You have to be able to distinguish the difference in the definitions. One side states that you must come up and work towards this honor, okay? And another side understands that what you're actually doing is expressing that pure heart form of compassion. Those are two completely different things, but the word honor is applicable to both, depending upon who is speaking and how it's being used. So
I see.
This is what I'm trying to delineate between.
Okay, so take the first one you mentioned. So let's do what you were saying then. So what is the first one? When you are striving for honor, so you're saying that's the first one.
Yes, because honor has always been used in cultural settings to teach an individual that it is desirable to receive awards or achievements from your society, recognition, okay? Receiving honor means that you have reached a certain goal or achievement, all right? You're being honored that way by your society in general, okay? And that has always been used by cultures to encourage individuals to do their best in order for that, okay? Now, if you're only going for the award, if you're only going for, you're trying to stack up medals or papers or however you want to call it.
Diplomas, whatever. Yes.
you're justifying, at that point, you're just justifying your ego, because this was all an ego exercise.
Mm.
As opposed to understanding that honor in its truest sense is understanding that it is the fullness of your giving that brings honor to you.
Mm.
And when you hit that point, it truly doesn't matter whether or not your society or your culture acknowledges you, because the honor that you bring because of what you have given fully, without any attachments to, freely, without, you're going to do this so that you can be recognized. It's not there. That's not there. You give because internally you couldn't sleep at night unless you followed through with what your heart was talking about or saying to you. Does your heart speaks to you? Can you live with that? Yet, and we all know that phrase, I could never forgive myself if I didn't.
Right. So I would say that the latter is a transcultural honor, because it at the level of human, of heart, of being. So that's the higher form of honor. The lesser form is cultural or situational honor, and I think there's a part that we didn't go into, but I'll just state it right here. I think there's a lot of misuse of honor in cultures where you have assumed or inherited honor, like I'm the son of so and so, so then you must honor me. The divine right of kings kind of thing, where instead of doing anything, any service, you were just kind of accorded honors as a condition of your just existence.
Well, that was the feudal system.
Feudal is one, sure. I think the many of the Eastern cultures have that. This
Yes.
patriarchal systems have this kind of built-in. You must honor. Mosaic.
Now we haven't even talked about duty. The concept of what duty is, because when it is within a culture, duty is the thing that you are supposed to do whether you like it or not.
Right, and duty has two sides too, but I don't want to go too far into it. But you have a code of honor, which is in essence your duties that you're supposed to fulfill. But you also have, like you're saying, the cultures have used this, the way they misuse honor, in the sense that your duty becomes not just what you are supposed to aspire to; it becomes law almost. If you violate your duty,
if it's a cultural thing, it's not what you're aspired to; it is what you are tasked to do.
Exactly.
Okay. Personal aspiration doesn't go into that at all.
Exactly what I said. It said there's a misuse of honor in these cultures, a misuse of duty in these cultures, making them laws or making them, in essence, almost like precepts for your existence. You must do these things, and the hereditary honors are you pay they're owed this duty without having done any service. So that's the misuse side. Then there's kind of the middle ground that we just spoke about, and then there's the higher transcultural, more human honor. The honor which is perhaps the highest, the honor which is given because no one even asked for it, because you just deserve it, because you really have served. And I think the spectrum crosses from where honor is undeserved and it's assumed, it becomes toxic because it turns into hierarchy, right? It turns into feudalism. It turns into this kind of Mosaic law kind of thing.
Turns into a caste system.
A caste system, perfect, yes.
Okay, but and that's when honor is defined by power.
Or blood. Like who you're related to means you're in a caste system. You have no honor if you're in the lowest caste. You have assumed honor if you're in the highest caste, whether you've done something good or not. It's by blood.
Or a bloodline, yeah.
Yeah, or hereditary, whatever. I mean, who your parents are matters more than what you've ever done.
It has to do with power.
Power.
Okay. So who you happen to be related to. Sometimes blood doesn't even matter. Okay? It's just who you know.
That's true. It becomes, and these are all the misuses or abuses of the term.
Right. But, well, it's used as a manipulator because the human being himself, honor is something that the heart actually wishes to fulfill. There is a part of the human soul that yearns for honor. That fullness of being, I'm talking about the highest one, not the lowest one. And it gets misinterpreted as this is your goal, and if you get to this goal, then you're going to be fulfilled. And it's that internal yearning that I'm speaking of, because we all have that internal yearning for reaching for something full. And then something on the outside comes in and says, oh, I know exactly what it is that you're yearning for. Here, let me give this to you.
Well, yes. There's two sides to honor, right? There are those who have earned this, whether they've done something which is so selfless, so they possess honor, and then there's those who recognize that this person should be honored, right? And those are both on the heart level, if you ask me.
You're talking about the person, or talking about people who recognize? I
spoke about both. I'm saying that there are those who, there's two sides to honor, right? If I honor you, and it's perfectly well deserved because you've done something honorable. You possess the honor, and I recognize that you should be honored. This is the perfect. This is like the flow of this, this energy, if you will, this heart energy. Because when somebody who is honorable or wears that mantle, let's say, like we say, we don't really know this person culturally, but we understand that they've done something honorable. We know about it, or we hear about it. We in some way associate this person with an honorable deed. Case in point, again, like a healthcare worker during a crisis, and people have been showing, recently and constantly now, that they honor these people because of their service, whether they did it for them or not. But there's this, you feel like you have almost like a debt to them, although they've done nothing for you personally. That's your innate sense of honor, that you want to appreciate this person who's really not looking for your appreciation. When you stop, people do this all the time. They stop service people in the airport and they say, thank you for your service, because they feel a debt. They feel compelled to recognize that this person has done something above and beyond. They should be honored. So that's your heart saying, you should honor that person. They've done something that is hard. They've done something that not everybody wants to do or is called to do, and they don't want to be. They're not saying, hey, where's my honor? But you feel that you should do it. You feel like a debt to them, right?
This is a natural response.
Exactly.
Okay, and that's foundational to the human heart. This is my point. This is the core or the root of how the word honor actually has come about. You appreciate. It's appreciation based. Okay, it's not recognition based, which is the mistake. It is appreciation based.
Well, the term I'm using, recognition, isn't the other side of recognition. I'm saying that you recognize, you acknowledge that you should appreciate this person. So when you see them, your first perception is, here's a person, oh, they're wearing a uniform, or they're a healthcare worker. And you feel that they've done some service for you which is undefinable, because you could say, what have they done for you? Well, They really haven't done anything for me personally, but I recognize that they have done something which deserves honor. And then I personally feel like,
right. You've acknowledged that there is something noble that they have done.
Noble's the good word.
Okay. That's what I'm coming to, because recognition is this mental kind of thing. The acknowledgement is deeper than just this mental checkbox.
Well, okay, maybe the term recognition is getting hung up. You are impulsed at a heart level to acknowledge them because you perceive. That's what I mean by recognize. You perceive that they deserve your recognition, your acknowledgement. Okay, they deserve something from you because you perceive that they are honorable at whatever level, whether it's a uniform or you know something about them, that this person is a war hero. Sometimes you see these wounded vets who are very obviously wounded vets. They're missing a limb. And you feel a debt because they did something noble, which is the real word here. That's really maybe the thing that was left out of the Wikipedia word salad was noble. I think. I don't think they said noble. They said valor. They said chivalry. But the depth of it is noble.
He said compassion, which is at the core of it.
Compassion is good too, but I think your word is better. I think noble is a better word because it encapsulates that sort of selflessness too.
And valor.
Yeah, and valor. One thing about valor that has become sort of, as a word in our culture, is it's become sort of militarized. You know, people think of valor as something you earn on the battlefield. And that's not true. I would say the kids in the cancer wards did valorous acts all the time. And, you know, they were fighting a very different kind of battle. But valor is... Yes.
No, I mean, I'm just thinking that now more people may be able to identify the valor that is needed to fight an unseen enemy.
Well, or just to carry on in the face of very difficult circumstances.
Yes.
Is valorous. So the nubs of these things, you know, the language can get a little bit bound up. But tell you what, we're going off the language, and that's always a good time. So let's take a break. We'll think about valor and courage and honor and nobility, and listen to a couple of commercial breaks, and then we'll come back and talk more about honor.
The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed is the latest book from Michael Lyons, the award-winning author of There is a Reaper. Featuring 13 original stories, this wide-ranging collection has everything. Forbidden love, gods versus demigods, weird invading aliens, sexy seductive artificial intelligence, and unusual passion between the living and the dead. All set amidst fantastic worlds of pain and loss and boundless joy. From the sublime to the macabre to the bittersweet, The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed will leave you breathless with laughter, brimming with tears, trembling with suspense. Available now on Amazon.com, Google Play, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere.
The Timeless Esoterica radio program with Dr. Bruce is broadcast on the fourth Monday of every month at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern, on ArtistFirst.com. We explore topics including the paranormal, alien life, mysteries, conspiracies, hidden history, oddities, and much more. Each show will feature a special guest with exciting and thought-provoking discussion. Always keep an open mind, an open heart, live forever, and remember Dr. Bruce believes in you.
The wait is over. First Blood, Book 2 of the Blood series is out. Your favorite bad boy thief Dev is back, and the beautiful and deadly Trey is right there with him. She is sharp, sexy, and full of surprises. Their adventures continue as a new power arises to threaten the world. The heart of creation is under attack, and time is definitely not on their side as they battle against their enemies' undead hordes. Can they unlock the hidden power that can defeat him, or will his forces draw first blood? Get all 3 installments in the series. Book 0, It's in the Blood. Book 1, Destroyer's Blood, and the new release, Book 2, First Blood, today. Available in ebook and paperback format on Amazon, Kobo, Apple, and most other fine e-tailers.
Hi, this is Hannah Ruth from the band Wild Hum. Check out our new Americana Soul CD, Wild Hum, at our website, wildhummusic.com. And you are listening to the ArtistFirst Radio Network. Thank you.
Rick Riordan fans, love mythology with plenty of action and humor? Destroyer's Blood is for you. The new fantasy novel by award-winning author Michael Lynes is Book 1 of the Adventures of Dev Kalian, the Blood series. Follow Dev and his magic sword Betrayer as they are suddenly attacked and forced to return to Olympus to fight in a war they want no part in. The world of men and gods is about to be destroyed by Zeus's ancient foe, and only Dev and Trey can stop him. The conflict never stops, and the amazing twist will have you on the edge of your seat. Act now while the ebook is on sale for only 99 cents. Destroyer's Blood is available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere. And while you're there, get the free prequel, It's in the Blood, available for a limited time.
You are listening to The Soul of the Everyman on ArtistFirst World Radio. Let's return to your hosts, Michael and Margaret Lynes.
Thank you very much, D-Man. We are honored to be here.
Yes, we are.
And it was a very honorable thing you did just there. And tonight's topic, the last half hour, we've been talking about honor, and just to kind of before we launch off, because there's a lot here, and maybe even more than I thought. Maybe you thought this would be a great topic, and it is. That honor is a term which has gotten confused in human culture, or maybe it's a small word for too many things. During the break, just very briefly, we talked about the sort of horrific consequences of some cultural misuses of honor, and there are many, and even in the feudal, or in the pre-feudal societies of Europe, the idea of dishonoring your tribe or your culture would earn you pretty much a swift death. You'd be expelled from the tribe, expelled from the culture. There are cultures today that use the term honor in conjunction with some very heinous acts, and we, from a culture to culture standpoint, the definition of honor at the cultural level varies wildly. Back even in the earlier part of the 20th century, if a couple would have sex out of wedlock, they would be dishonoring their families and dishonoring themselves, and they might earn at least the reprobation of the society. To have a child out of wedlock was considered very dishonorable. Now, that's changed over time, and you can argue about whether you like it or you don't, or it's a good thing or it's a bad thing. But the point being is that cultural honor is fungible because it's really tied up with the power structures. You mentioned that last half hour, Margaret. It's that cultural honor is about power, and it's about the exercise of power and the stratification of a society into those who owe duties and those who are owed the duty, and in the best possible light it can work, because even in the feudal society, the lord was supposed to serve those who were his serfs. He was supposed to protect them. He was supposed to feed them. He was supposed to make sure that they weren't abused or neglected. That was the charge. But oftentimes, human beings being human beings, it was all one way. It was all from the bottom up. All the honoring or dutying or all the things that you were supposed to do when you were a serf were enforced strictly, and the Lord's duties to his people were enforced loosely, if not at all, because it was a power dichotomy. It is dichotomy. No, it's there's a different word for it, but there was a power disparity. Having all the power also meant having all the responsibility, but it often meant just having all the power. And that's where you get this idea of cultural honor, which gets abused a lot. But the real one, the honor which is at the heart level, I don't know if you can abuse that. I think that's pure in many ways.
Well, it's something that you have to answer to yourself for, as opposed to relying on somebody else to do it for you.
And if I could interject, I think you should expound on this. Is that pure honor? You can't grab it or be given it. You have to earn it, and it's purely earned through your own blood, sweat, tear, dedication, given. So it costs you something.
Yeah, talk about having skin in the game. You put your whole self in that one.
You put your life in the game, right?
Your whole self, your life, your everything that you thought you were, and suddenly you find out that was a limited concept. Who you thought you were.
I would say that the pure honor also survives the physical body. Which we honor the fallen. We honor those who have passed on. And whether they're there or not, their memory becomes honorable, because the actual honor, when it's done this way, the pure one, survives death. So it becomes an eternal thing. It becomes an eternity bank thing. Got it right. An eternity bank thing.
Right.
It's an experience which then gets honored past your corporeal existence.
Yeah. No, that's a good observation. That when you act with great honor, it goes through dimensions and is marked for all eternity and never forgotten, because that act done by a whole heart and an expression of unconditional love basically means it breaks all conditions of time and space and is put into the eternity bank to be forever part of your record, your life time down here.
So the fungible honors of culture, which can change over time or change from culture to culture, or the abusive honors, if you will, that are they're sort of they become they become a personality thing. So if you honor this one because they're the head of state, the next head of state gets those honors, and the one who's no longer there they don't transfer with the person. They're just there. Like the honors of a feudal lord don't survive the feudal lord's death. They go to the next feudal lord, but they survive in that way.
Ideally, it was supposed to be, as you said, a balance, because the ones that were set to rule over certain fiefdoms were supposed to be in charge of the welfare of that fiefdom. But as the kings come and go, it became, well, how much tax can you send to the king?
Mm-hmm.
It became a power thing again.
Right. And I think when that happens, at the heart level, you know it's wrong, and you withdraw your honor. It becomes an honor in name only, or in lip service, So this form, this misuse of honor, is also misnamed, because it's no longer honor. It's something else. And we were kind of very quickly trying to figure out if there was a word for it, and there may be. I have to think about it a little bit more. But that misplaced honor, misused honor, doesn't evoke that heart reaction that I really do owe this person something. And on the other side, I'm just going to jump to the other side. When we do feel that we should honor somebody, it's also fragile. It's like love. When you give this honor to someone, and then you find out that they didn't deserve your love, or they didn't deserve your honor, so that they faked it, or that you assumed that they were an honorable person and they were not. You assumed that they were true and they were not. It hurts you in the heart. It offends you at a heart level that you gave them something precious that they didn't actually deserve. They were faking, that stolen valor, right? Or love, which is given, and the other person is not giving love back. They're really just abusing your love. It's at the heart level that you feel that pain. So when you feel that you really should honor somebody, it's also trusting that that honor is deserved, because you don't know always whether it is or not, but you want to trust that it is. Notice, you don't know this person. They're let's say a healthcare worker, and you honor them because you say, I think I owe you a debt of honor because of the service you've given. If it turns out that they're just wearing the mask and gloves because they felt like dressing up that day and they didn't tell you, then you feel wronged, because you've given something from the heart which is precious, and you've given it truly and freely, and it's been abused. So that's what I mean. There's a
difference there between the position and the person, which most people don't make the distinguishment of.
Right. If you really know that the person did these things, honor is inseparable from them because they've earned it for real.
Right. I mean, it's understanding that there are certain positions that people fill, and whether they can truly honor that position is the question. And people have a tendency to want to judge somebody else based on what they think they see, and that's a whole nother topic.
But I think it's important because at the cultural level, or at the kind of, if you have a large enough culture, you can't know everybody. So you are willing to assume, to take the trust, a little leap of faith, to say that this person who looks like a wounded vet, I feel a debt to them. And you feel wronged if it turns out that somehow you spent your honoring on somebody who didn't deserve it. You feel wronged, and people get very angry about things like that. And I think the anger is because it's at the heart level. But you give it freely because you say, well, I feel that this person represents or deserves this because what I think they've done, but because I don't know that they've done it. If you do know, you have some trust. You don't need the trust, rather. You don't need the faith. You know already.
Okay. That's when you're basically evaluating strictly on appearances.
Well, casually, yes.
Yeah, but that's what I mean.
If you go deeper, you can be more assured or less assured.
But that's what I mean. So when it comes back to the heart, and you're talking about the highest form of honor, your heart will tell you whether there is an integrity in the person that is standing in front of you, or you feel a dissonance going on. The outer face is doing one thing, but there's another layer underneath it going, this isn't matching up.
Right.
Okay, so even though they may be in a position of honor given by a society, you understand that this is not what it appears to be. Okay.
So over time, your perception of their honorableness can change.
I'm talking about a one-to-one where you're reading their energy.
So am I. But what I'm trying to say is, let's say what you just said is that you meet someone whom you feel you should honor, but then you start to interact with them, and you realize that there's a dissonance. It takes that whatever time it takes. If you're really good, it takes 10 seconds. It might take a while for somebody to understand that their feelings of honor for this person are misplaced because they're not what they seem.
So you're saying it's honoring this person according to a certain title or level? Is that what you're saying?
Well, yes, because initially, unless you know them, you don't know somebody, but you feel you should honor them because of what you see initially, and then it can change over time. And I think what your point is exactly correct. Is that dissonance starts to rise up because the heart is very perceptive. If you listen to it, you say, well, I thought that they were this, but I can see that this isn't jiving up. It's not making sense anymore, and you start to draw back.
It's just that all right, I'm speaking personally now. When I meet someone, whether or not they have a title or position, you give the respect that they are human. But unless I see that clarity, I will know that title could be used as a manipulator.
Sure.
Okay, that's where I have to touch in. If I have to do an interaction, that's where I have to stand so that it can be really clean. Because if I acknowledge that this person has a certain title that is more powerful than where I happen to be, you can open a door for all kinds of mischief to happen, or misunderstandings.
If we extrapolate that, I think that's what happens to people, a lot of people throughout society, and where you have power disparities is where you end up with abuse in the workplace,
right,
or abuse in, there's a initial impression, because people who are trying to give the impression that they are honorable can also be a way of, as you said, manipulation. Because what is honor? It's very, very powerful. If you feel somebody's honorable, you are inclined to provide them with many things that you wouldn't provide a dishonorable person. You are inclined to trust them. You're inclined to extend yourself. You're inclined to link your heart up to them and trust. Trust. So the honor and nobility misplaced can be a huge manipulator, and when you see through it, sometimes then it becomes a gloved, the iron fist inside a velvet glove, where people who you were supposed to honor or who are appearing noble and leaders become tyrants and dictators that no longer care about whether you honor them or not. They're just,
Well, it's when you acknowledge that is a possibility. In other words, the person you're speaking with has more power than you and more notoriety or more. That's when, and you see the person who's standing in front of you and you realize there's something not right. I don't see the high, clear frequency that should be embodied there. So you put I know, speaking for myself, I just allow my shields to rise, because my shields have lots of filters. And it's something that you learn to do through experience, because, you can see the manipulators. And I do not give permission to be manipulated. So when you realize that you function from that center point of, it's got to be clear.
So your advice to people who are younger and less perceptive or less experienced, really, is really to come to the heart level and find whether it resonates true. It's what you said before. In other words, if you start to feel at your heart level that there's a dissonance, if you don't have the shields, you don't have the filters, at least draw back, separate.
Well, you realize that I have to observe this.
You
go back to that. Tell your mind to record things so that you can observe without being caught up in the moment. Because sometimes the whole purpose of it is for you to be caught up in the moment. That way, things can go a certain way for the other person.
Yes.
So to train yourself to observe, draw back. It's like, okay, what am I seeing? It's not making any sense. And your heart will tell you whether or not you feel secure and safe. If you don't feel safe, then that's a big one. That's like,
In our quote, I'll just refer back to it. So the people who are manipulating are, I would say, always assuming honor or putting on the trappings of honor with the idea that they're going to kind of get a power over somebody. When you honor someone, you also put yourself in a position of certainly not subservience, but you're saying, you are greater. You've done something great, and I want to acknowledge that greatness.
Usually, you admire someone who has done something great.
Admiration, very very powerful, motivating force.
Yes.
You admire. You also want to be like.
And that is, yes, it can be a very strong manipulator. But it's, again, just being aware that it's got to be really clear if you decide to interact with the individual.
I would say that if we turn it around for a second, too, is those who are accorded honors. There was the old Roman, remember, they would say to the person who was being feted, a general coming back from war, covered with the laurel leaves and being paraded through the streets of Rome, and somebody would be whispering, remember you're human, into their ear. Because that much honor can become addictive, too.
Adulation.
Exactly.
The adulation can become addictive.
Right. The adulation, which is part of people's recognition of honor, of the way they're kind of providing this to you, all these wonderful, you're so wonderful, you're so great, all this adulation can become an addictive drug, which that's why those who would abuse honor want to do it, because that adulation is just, it's a sea. It's this drug. It makes you feel like you're a god. You can do anything, and I think that's when people, they want honor to be given to them without doing anything, because it's the adulation, and that's the culture that accords sort of misplaced honor to people who are actors or singers or whom knows what, even though just because they have things, they have this fast car or whatever it is. It's all of a sudden they want the adulation, this kind of drug of you're like a god, and that is destructive on both sides. The people who are giving the adulation can very quickly fall out of like with you, but the ones who are addicted to it, they want that next hit so bad. Once you're addicted to the adulation, you want it. It becomes destructive and toxic, like any drug does.
Yeah, Because it feeds the ego.
Feeds the ego, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Not really feeding anything else but the ego.
Can I stop you there for a second? Why adulation and misused honor feed the ego, but true honor doesn't? They're such selfless people. The ones who really have pure honor, they don't care about the adulation at all. It wasn't why they did it. It's never why they did it. So when people are feeding off the adulation, you can almost say that's a tell. It says that this isn't necessarily true honor. You know?
They're operating from their power center.
Right.
It's all about power. Adulation is, you are above all the sea of people in front of you. And that feeds the ego. It's a power thing.
But there's something there. In essence, what I'm saying is those who, when the adulation comes, they accept it versus just saying, no, anyone would have done it. I don't deserve, I'm nobody special, is the pure honor. Even though they are special, they don't care about the adulation part.
They're feeding their ego. The ego has got to be fed to exist.
But if they're not, then they're more on the pure side. If their ego isn't being fed, because even though they're getting the same adulation,
they don't work from the ego.
Exactly.
It's as simple. They understand that they are much, much more than their ego. And that's what the whole purpose actually is of being down here, is to see how limited your ego is.
Mm.
And speaking of limits.
And egos, which I don't have one of.
We've reached the end of our show.
Yes, and I'm Michael Lyons.
And I'm Margaret. And thank you for listening.